It's been an interesting 24 hours. When I arrived here the first time, I had a chance to see the skies over Europe and Africa in ways I had not seen them in my own country before. I even saw what I thought was the Southern Cross constellation, and I probably did. I had planned to be in this country for 3 weeks. I had a decent night's sleep last night. I woke up in the middle of the night just as Noora suggested I would. And while this particular hotel has many amenities, it has more than a few shortcomings. For one thing, there's no doorknobs on some of the doors around here. I myself don't speak enough Arabic really to communicate fluently with anyone, especially in a crisis situation. Last night we were out in front of the hotel and were swamped by a brigade of people selling wares. Busts of Ramesses, Nefertiti wallets, tiny statues of the Sphinx, even Egyptian pins with all kinds of pharaonic subject matter. It was a little heated there for a moment, and one young woman who seemed to be very upset with us, perhaps more upset with Noora because she was with me or something. I don't know what the dynamics were, but she was so upset with us that she even gave me one of the wallets. And another young man was selling busts of Ramesses and Nefertiti and other notable figures from Egyptian civilization. I didn't want to buy anything. That was the simple fact of the matter. I just wasn't up to go shopping, all of a sudden. And I think it bespoke the nature of the situation here in Egypt. That while the vast majority of the people are not begging in the streets, things are hard, especially in the tourist industry. It's probably around 8-ish. I haven't actually checked the time, but the people who run the horse carriages, which are right outside this building, which is why there's a whiff of manure in the air here, by the way, just a little. They're already up. They're already ferrying people up to the plateau. There's plenty of activity here. Of all the people I've seen so far, only a small percentage of a percent were doing anything that might be construed as begging. As I flew in, I saw that they were building new roads and new cities. This is a beautiful country, despite the smog, despite, all the things that me as a Westerner find unusual. These people are enduring, and they have been for thousands of years. The country has gone by different names, ruled by different political groups. First the Pharaohs, then the Greeks, then the Romans, then the Byzantines, and then perhaps later on the French or the British in their turns, and then the Egyptians, whatever amalgam of people was left over from all that occupation. It's been an interesting trip. When I first got here, I was worried. I don't know if it was the traffic, or I was getting cold feet about getting married, or worried about our wedding night, or any of these things. But I felt a sense of, ambivalence, fear, frustration, uncertainty. I don't know what to call it, but I felt a lot of it while I was coming down the roads from the airport. And it may have simply been that I was upset about the traffic. So that could have been it as well. But I'm glad to be here. As with my first trip, I have no evil thoughts. I didn't wake up this morning and go, Oh God. Oh, I hate so-and-so. Oh, I hate so-and-so. None of that has happened. I've been here for 24 hours. I had, a slight, storm of annoyance when I woke up this morning. But I quickly caught myself and asked myself, why was I having those feelings? Why should I be having them at all? But they quickly passed. And I feel like myself again, my better self. I've managed to get quite a bit of video while I was here already, on the plane and from this very vantage point. And I'm going to get lots more. Wait and see.
When you leave America and come to an African country, do not expect the poison of racism to drain from your psyche right away. Give yourself time to decompress from the experiences in America. I have found that on average, it takes about 3 days for this process to take place. The time is shortened with each successive trip in some cases, but generally give yourself about 3 days. And about the hotel I stayed in. During my visit, the building was undergoing renovation, thus the missing doorknobs. Clearly, the building was an older, converted structure. The front door appears to be from a time when the building served, possibly, as the private residence of some wealthy family. Noora and I had our breakfast and then set out to do the rounds of the activities we needed to do in order to get our affairs in order. Because of parking and other issues, we walked through the streets of Cairo to our first objective. The streets of Cairo, unlike other cities I have visited, are alive with daily life. Merchants selling everything a person could ask for, locally baked breads, locally grown vegetables, tea and coffee, clothes, and much more. Along the route I saw an impressive building, clearly a monument to a great person and designed in the neo-classical Egyptian style. I asked who the building was built for. I later found out it was the mausoleum of Saad Zaghloul. Zaghloul became increasingly active in nationalist movements, and in 1919 he led an official Egyptian delegation, or Waft, the name of the political party he would later form, to the Paris Peace Conference, demanding that the United Kingdom formally recognize the independence and unity of Egypt and Sudan, which had been united as one country under Muhammad Ali Pasha. Britain had occupied the country in 1882 and declared it a protectorate at the outbreak of the First World War. Though Egypt and Sudan had its own sultan, parliament, and armed forces, it had effectively been under British rule for the duration of the occupation. The British, in turn, demanded that Zaghloul end his political agitation. When he refused, they exiled him to Malta and later to the Seychelles. Zaghloul's absence caused disturbances in Egypt, ultimately leading to the Egyptian Revolution of 1919. Upon his return from exile, Zaghloul led the Egyptian nationalist forces. The elections of January 12, 1924 gave the Waft party overwhelming majority, and 2 weeks later, Zaghloul formed the first Waftist government in Egypt. The masses considered Zaghloul their national leader, the Za'im al-Ummah, the uncompromising nationalist hero. His opponents were equally discredited as compromisers in the eyes of the masses. Yet, he also had finally come to power partly because he had compromised with the palace group and implicitly accepted the conditions governing the safeguarding of British interests in Egypt. Following the assassination, on November 19, 1924, of Sir Lee Stack, the Sidar, and Governor-General of the Sudan, and subsequent British demands which Zaghloul felt to be unacceptable, Zaghloul resigned. He returned to the government in 1926 until his death in 1927. His memory is honored by several monuments around the country, including this statue in Alexandria and his impressive mausoleum. The African Adventure video series is part of the larger Exodus film project, a 3-film series on how African Americans can move to African countries to live peaceful, successful lives. Please support this project and the Africa Open for Business video series, an ongoing series of video discussions with movers and shakers from across the African diaspora at Patreon. Please be sure to share, comment, rate, and subscribe to our videos. Thank you very much for watching, and take care.